A very good morning, children. Children, today we shall take up a new chapter, Unit 4.3, World Heritage. Now, when you look at the pictures here, I'm sure some pictures you will be able to recognize what places they are. All right. Now, for those who love to travel, love to explore places, this chapter is going to be interesting for you because we're talking about World Heritage. Now, what is the meaning of World Heritage? We shall see that as we do the warming up exercise. So open your textbooks, children, to page number 157. Page number 157. Let's start with the warming up. Now these are personal questions you can answer on your own. Do you like to travel? Where have you traveled? Have you heard about the wonders of the world? Have you heard about UNESCO? Yes, what does UNESCO stand for? I'm sure you've done this in your political science class. UNESCO stands for United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization. And what is meant by heritage? When you say heritage, children, what does it mean? We're talking about something belonging to our forefathers, okay? Heritage is something that belongs to our forefathers. So that is called heritage. So do you know of any heritage building in our own city? In Mumbai, do you know of any heritage building that belongs to our forefathers, which has been there, from generations? Okay. Can I name some? I'm sure you've seen the CST building, okay? Chhatrapati Shivaji Terminals and Taj Mahal Hotel. So these are all heritage buildings in our own city in Mumbai. Now, we have something called the heritage cycle. Now, what is this heritage cycle? Now, we know World Heritage, children, we're talking about places, okay? Places of which belong to our forefathers. World, okay? Which are being recognized by the UNESCO, okay? So, once we understand the importance of a place, what are we going to do? We're going to value it, isn't it? So, when we value it, what happens? We're going to care for it. And when we care for it, we enjoy, okay? And we want to learn more and understand more about it. This is what the heritage cycle is all about, okay? Now, what is the difference between World Heritage and Cultural Heritage? When I talk about World Heritage, it is a World Heritage Site. It is a place listed by the United Nations of Educational, Scientific and Cultural or Physical Significance. Okay, so it is selected by the UNESCO. Now, cultural also is a legacy. It's a legacy of the physical artifacts and intangible attributes of a group or society. So this also is inherited by the past generation, but it's cultural, more cultural, okay? You can refer to a dictionary or encyclopedia if you want to know a detailed meaning of this. Now coming to the fourth and fifth questions, these are also personal questions, children, where you have tourist spots, you have park, you can name any of your favorite park and why you like it, okay? Mountain, which is your favorite mountain and why. So likewise, then you have the fifth chapter, you have heritage sites. Now rank these with your partner. You can rank on your own now. These are different heritage sites, okay? I'm sure you must have heard of the pyramids in Egypt, right? All these places, you must have heard about it. You have to rank it, okay? Now let's come to the chapter. A World Heritage Site is a site determined by the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization to have significant cultural or natural importance to humanity. So the UNESCO, okay, they are the ones who decide on which place is going to be the World Heritage Site. And these places are significant from cultural and natural importance to humanity. As such, the sites are protected and maintained by the International World Heritage Program, which is administered by the UNESCO World Heritage Committee. Now, in order to, see that a place is not destroyed, children, it has to be protected and maintained. Anything has to be protected and maintained when it is of importance. So, when it's of international importance, the responsibility is more. So, we have the UNESCO World Heritage Committee that takes care of it. Because World Heritage Sites are places that are significant culturally and naturally. They vary in type but include forests, lakes, mountains, monuments, buildings and cities. So when we talk about World Heritage Sites, okay, these can be forest, it can be anything, forest or lakes or monuments, buildings or cities. World Heritage Sites can also be a combination of both cultural and natural areas. Now, you can have a World Heritage Site, a place which can be important from cultural as well as natural area. Natural means we're talking about its beauty, okay? So, for example, we have Mount Wongsang, okay? Mount Wongsang in China. If you look at this place, if you can, Google and look at these places. I've just put a pic here. This is the pic out here, but if you look at the moving pictures, okay, it's a site with significance of human culture because it played a role in historical Chinese art and literature. And the mountain is also significant because of its physical landscape characteristics. Okay, so you have a picture here of the UNESCO. You can see the different flags of the nations. You can see this beauty of this Mount Wongsang in China. Now, what you understand by the characteristics? Characteristics are distinguishing features or qualities. Now, what is the history of the World Heritage Site? How did it come into being? Okay. Now, although the idea of protecting cultural and natural heritage sites around the world began in the early 20th century, momentum for its actual creation was not until the 1950s. Now, they thought about, they came up with this idea of protecting, the cultural and natural site. That started in the early 20th century, children. But when did it come into actual momentum? We're talking action, okay? When did they put into action? It only came not until 1950s. In 1954, Egypt started plans to build the Aswan High Dam to collect and control water from the Nile River. Now, I'm sure you must have heard about the Aswan High Dam, okay? That's in Egypt. You can look at this. This is the dam. It's a very important dam, and it was in 1954, okay? And this was to control the water from the Nile River. Now, the initial plan for the dam's construction would have flooded the valley containing the Abu Simbel temples and scores of ancient Egyptian artifacts. Now, when they thought, the initial plan is the starting, when they had thought of the plan, okay? Now, when they thought of the plan of constructing this dam, children, it would have flooded the valley containing the Abu Simbel temple. Now, this is the Abu Simbel temples. If they had to build a dam, this temple, would have been destroyed. And there's scores of ancient Egyptian artifacts in this temple, okay? Scores means plenty of what objects made by human beings, which is of importance. All right. Now, what did they do then? To protect the temples and artifacts, UNESCO launched an international campaign in 1959 that called for the dismantling and movement of the temples to higher ground. Now, what did they do? In order to save this temple, the Abu Simbel temple, they raised it to a higher ground so that it would not be destroyed by the flood. Okay, they did the dismantling. Now, what do you understand by dismantling? Is disassembling and putting, or you talk about pulling down. Okay, so everything, by piece was removed, and then they disassembled it, and then they put it again together. That needed a lot of money. Okay, so therefore the project cost an estimated $80 million, okay, US dollars, and $40 million of which came from 50 different countries. So other countries also pulled in money for this project. And because of the project's success, UNESCO and the International Council of Monuments and Sites initiated a draft convention to create an international organization responsible for protecting cultural heritage. Now, since this project became successful, they started a draft convention, a plan to create an international organization which will be responsible for protecting cultural heritage. Like, this place was important from cultural heritage. They didn't want to destroy it just because by building the dam. So therefore, they decided to start an organization to protect the cultural heritage. Shortly afterwards, in 1965, a White House conference in the United States called for a World Heritage Trust to protect historic and cultural sites, but to also protect the world's significant natural and scenic sites. Finally, in 1968, the International Union for Conservation of Nature developed similar goals and presented them at the United Nations Conference on Human Environment in Stockholm, Sweden in 1972. Following the presentation of these goals, the Convention concerning the protection of world cultural and natural heritage was adopted by UNESCO's General Conference on November 16, 1972. Now, as I said, this needed a lot of money. Okay, so the World Heritage Trust was set up. And we have conferences that were held finally in 1968. International Union for Conservation. Conservation means what? When you have to save, okay, of nature. Developed similar goals and presented them at the United Nations Conference. Now, they had a conference at Stockholm, okay, Stockholm, that is in Sweden in 1972. And in this meeting, they adopted the UNESCO General Conference, okay. They adopted this and regarding concerning the protection of world cultural and natural heritage. And that was adopted in which year? In November 16, 1972. Now, what is the World Heritage Committee? Today, the World Heritage Committee is the main group. You can look at this. Okay, this is the entire committee. They are responsible for establishing which site will be listed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The committee meets once a year and consists of representatives from 21 state parties that are elected for 6 years terms by the World Heritage Center's General Assembly. And the state parties are then responsible for identifying and nominating new sites within their territories to be considered for inclusion on the World Heritage List. Now, you have this World Heritage Committee. What is the work of this? This is the UNESCO World Heritage Site. Okay, they meet once in a year, and they consist of how many? 21 state parties. Okay, you can see it's a big group of people sitting here, and they are elected for 6 years. Now, these state parties, what they do, they identify and they nominate, means you suggest a name, okay? They look around, they search, they find places which may be of importance and which can be included in the World Heritage List, okay? That is their work. Now, you have meanings here. You can look through the meanings, characteristics, scores of artifacts, dismantling and initiated. So, go through the meaning, write this down in your notebook. We have finished with just the first part of the video. We'll do the second video. Please see that you're doing your assignment, children. I hope you are committed to your work, do your daily studies. Thank you, children, for giving me a listening ear, and God bless you.